Okay, for question number 1 in this math box, again, we're going to look for those keywords to help us decide what operation we're going to use for this story problem. And we're also going to do some highlighting of which numbers we actually need. So question number 1 says, Mr. Ringwald earned $3,500 from his apple orchard in the month of September. He paid $1,850 to cover his monthly bills. How much does he have left over? You're going to circle the answer which is the best. And for this problem, again, I suggest highlighting and underlining the things that you need to use in order to solve the problem. So we know that he has $3,500 earnings, and he's paying $1,850 to pay his bills. Your job is to find how much he has left over. So hopefully you're seeing that that's a subtraction problem. So you're going to take that money he has earned, $3,500, and subtract from that all the bills that he had to pay, 1,850, and 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 5, you can't do it, so you're going to borrow from that 5, make it a 4, which makes this a 10. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 4 minus 8, again, you can't do that, so you're going to have to borrow from here and make that a 2, which makes that a 14. So 14 minus 8 is 6. 2 minus 1 is 1. So $1,650. So that's going to be that very top one. Now, in order to check this problem, how do we do that? Well, this is a subtraction problem, so in order to do that, we're going to do the opposite of subtraction. Opposite of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to take the bottom two numbers, add them together, and if I get it right, I should get that original top number, which was 3,500. So let's go ahead and check our work and make sure we were right. So I have 1,650 plus 1,850. And again, if I got it right, I should get 3,500. So let's check it and see. 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 5 is 10. So you're going to carry that 1 and write the 0 down at the bottom. 6 plus 1 is 7. And then 7 plus 8 is 15. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus another 1 is 3. So 3,500, so I got that answer right. Again, your answer is not 3,500, your answer is 1,650. I'm doing this part of it just to check to make sure I did the subtraction part correctly. Okay, so again, your answer, 1,650. Okay, for number 2, it says find all the factors and the first 4 multiples of 24. So again, I'm going to do some highlighting, all the factors and first 4 multiples of 24. I would even underline that word first because it's not asking you just to find any 4 multiples. They want the first 4 multiples of 24. So let's start with the factors since that's the first thing here on our list. So when we do factors, you have to think of factor rainbows. So you have to list all of the things multiplied by what other number would give you 24. Always start at the beginning. So I would do it like this. 1, and leave a lot of space in there. Other side's 24. So 1 times 24 is 24. Then you go to 2. Can I do 2 times anything to give me 24? Sure, 2 times 12. So 2 and 12. So then you go to 3. Can I do anything times 3 to give me 24? And if you think of all of those rules that we've learned about, you know that there's a multiple of 3 if I add up these 2 digits and I can divide it by 3. So 4 plus 2 is 6. 3 goes into 6. So I know 3 times something will give me 24. And that number is 3 times 8. Then 4 times something. If a number is divisible by 4, then it's also divisible by 2 and 3. So 4 times 6 is 24. And then is there anything times 5? No, so I can stop there. So your factors for 24 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. Again, this makes a factor rainbow, so I can match up all of those factor pairs in a rainbow. Second part of this is finding the multiples of 24, and again, this time we only need to remember the first 4 multiples. So first 4 multiples of 24. I'm going to start at 24, because 24 times 1, and And underneath there, I might even write that. So 24 times 1 is 24. Then I'm going to do 24 times 2 to give me my next one, which is 48. Then I'm going to do 24 times 3. And now we're getting to a little bit harder, so if you can't do 24 times 3 in your head, again, you have all this margin over here to show your work. So easily I could find 24 doubled, but a little bit more difficult when you get to the 3 times 3. So go ahead and use your margins. 3 times 4 is 12. Carry the 1, and the 2 goes down here. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So 24 times 3 is 72. That's my next multiple. And I still need one more because I wanted the first 4. So now I'm going to do 24 times 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. Carry the 1. 6 goes down here. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So my next multiple is 96, and that's going to be that times 4. Okay? So for when you're doing multiples, you're starting at whatever number they give you, which in our case was 24, and they wanted all the numbers in order, so you're doing 24 times 1, 24 times 2, 24 times 3, 24 times 4, and that's how you find your multiples for 24. Okay, we've had a problem like this finding missing values before in one of our math boxes. So again, we're going to, do some fancy things with the zeros to help us make that math a little bit easier. So for number 3A, find the missing value. Remember we crossed off those zeros. Oops, I apologize. Crossed off those zeros. So I know that my next number is not going to have any zeros because I crossed 1 0 off from 30 and 1 0 off from 36. So I know whatever number I put in that blank is not going to have a 0 at the end because I've already used all my zeros. So now I can easily look at that 3 and 36 and say 3 times what equals 36. And if you're not sure, it's going to be a little bit of division here. So we have 3 goes into 36. How many times? Well, 3 goes into 3 once. 1 times 3 is 3. When I subtract 3 from 3, I get 0. Bring down that 6. 3 goes into 6 2 times, and 2 times 3 is 6. When I subtract, I get 0. So I know that 3 times 12 is 36. So 12 is going to go in that box. Again, I didn't need to end any zeros because I already had that 0 attached to that 30. So A is 12. For B, again, this one is asking us to find what it equals. So again, paying attention to what the question is asking you. In A, we had to find another factor to put in there. And for B, we're actually finding the product of those two answers, the answer for that multiplication problem. So for this one, we're doing 30 times 50. Again, pretend the zeros aren't there. So I'm going to cross them off. I have 1, 2 zeros. So my answer is going to have 2 zeros. So you can go ahead and add those right away. And now I'm doing a 3 times 5, which is a little bit easier math. So 3 times 5 is 15. So adding that in there, my answer is 1,500. For C, again, we're finding another number that I'm multiplying by 800 to give me 32,000. All they did on C was write it a little bit different than A, but it's the same type of problem. So if it makes it a little bit easier for you, you could rewrite that like A, box times 800 equals 32,000. Okay, but again, it's the same problem. So for C, I'm going to cross off my zeros. I have 2 zeros here and 2 zeros here. I still have 1 0 left. So that means for my answer for C, it's going to have a 0 in it so that I can make up that extra 0. Okay, so now that I added that into that box, I can cross that off. Now I've accounted for all of my zeros. Now I'm looking at 8 times what equals 32. Again, a little bit easier math for you. And we know that 8 times 4 equals 32. So my answer here for C is going to be 40. Okay, so 40 times 800 is 32,000. Now for D, again, we're going to look at how it's asking us to solve that problem. And for this one, we're finding the answer to a multiplication problem. Again, you should use that vocabulary. That's the product. Okay, so I'm looking at 40 times 70, crossing off my zeros, 2 zeros, which means I'm going to have 2 zeros in my answer. And then I'm looking at just a 4 times a 7, and 4 times 7 is 28. Put in your comma, 2,800. Question number 4 says, without dividing, predict which choice is going to have the greater quotient. So a couple of things that you have to underline or highlight here. Without dividing, predict, so that's an important word, so we're predicting here, which choice is going to have a greater quotient. Okay, those are the things that I would highlight. And it kind of gives you a clue in this question what operation you're going to be doing to solve that problem. But again, that math vocabulary, quotient, you should know what a quotient is. But again, in this question, they're kind of giving that to you without dividing. So quotient is the answer to a division problem. So again, for this one, we're not actually dividing, we're just making that prediction. So when that prediction comes into place, you're doing a little bit of estimation. So for A, I'm going to look at it like 700 divided by 70. And for B, 800 divided by, I'm going to round that to 50. Okay? So when I think of it like that, 700 divided by 70 is going to give me 10. When I look at that next one, I have 50 goes into 800 and 50 goes into 80 one time. And then I have 30 left over, so 80 minus 50 is 30. When I bring down that next zero, I'm going to have 300. And then 50 goes into 300 6 times. And so B is going to give you that greater quotient. Okay, again, just doing a little bit of estimating and mental math there without actually dividing the answers. So B, again, has the greater quotient. When I look at the question number 5, explain why your answer to problem 4 makes sense. So making some reasonings out of that question that we just solved. And again, I took that 700 divided by 75, and again, did some rounding, some estimations. 700 divided by 70, again, equaled that 10. And then that 800 divided by 54, remember we made that 800 divided by 50, which again equaled the 16. So we know that 50 goes into 800 more than what we estimated 70 to go into 700. So 800 divided by 54 has a greater, and again using that math vocabulary, quotient. Okay, so that's doesn't have to be word for question number 5, but something similar to that, as long as you're making sense as to how you solve problem number 4.